Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's BI Livecast series. My name is Carrie Keenan, and I'm a program director here at Brand Innovators, and welcome to our Marketing Innovation Livecast today. It's going to be a really special one, and I'm thrilled to kick us off. We've got a phenomenal day ahead of us with some amazing marketers. Before we get started, I do want to thank everyone, all the marketers, sponsors, and you in the audience for helping make this event even possible. Throughout the event, you'll be able to use our Q&A widget and a chat widget down at the bottom of your screen. And we encourage you to use those to engage with our speakers and the other attendees throughout the program. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming our first set of speakers from IBM. We have Caitlin Weiss, the manager, Demand Gen and Brand Experiences. Sharon Gallagher, Director, Digital Brand Leader, Suzanne Brown, Vice President of Brand Experiences, Sean Hogland, Experience Design Director, and our moderator, Joe Roberts, the Head of Education at Circus Street. Hi, everybody, and welcome.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello and welcome to our fireside chat with IBM. We've got a stellar panel, as just mentioned, and we're going to be getting under the bonnet of the brand and talking about innovation and the transformation of this technology giant. My name is Jo Roberts. I'm Head of Education at Circus Street, and we provide online digital education programs for global brands. As mentioned, I'm going to be moderating the discussion today, and I'm really excited to understand how much the IBM business has been transformed. And we are hoping to have around 5 minutes at the end for any questions, so please do submit them via the chat. And it would be great just to hear a little bit more from the panelists about what you do. So let's start with you, Sharon.
Hi, yes, hi, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I am the lead at IBM for IBM.com for the brand. So the brand in digital across IBM.com.
Thank you, Sharon. And Suzanne, over to you.
Hey, Joe, I look after our brand building experiences based in New York, and that includes teams who build out our client experiences from digital, social, media. Yeah, excited to be here too, to share.
Thank you, Suzanne. And Jess, can you give your introduction? Is Jess here? Oh, we've got Carrie.
Jess is our CTO. She's responsible for the MarTech behind the scenes on all of what makes marketing shine beautifully. I don't know where she is. We'll make sure she gets the link.
Okay, great. And finally, Sean.
Yeah, hey there. So yeah, I lead the digital creative for our experience design across our marketing group.
Great, thank you. So before we delve into the discussion, let's put this conversation into context. So IBM recently announced the launch of its integrated global platform, Let's Create, which it describes as the company's most significant brand initiative in more than a decade. We'll get to hear more about it in a moment, but I'm hoping that we can see a short advert that showcases this great work. Let's see if it plays. We got it here? If not, we might need to come back to it. Okay, oh, here we go.
Every big idea, every game changer, every how'd they do that starts here, the blank page. Artists and writers know the tyranny of it well, but so do developers, data scientists, CTOs, the new creators. To them, we say, let's create something that changes everything. IBM, let's create.
Great, that's great to see. Sharon, you were part of the team that's driven this brand transformation. And I was just really wondering, what challenge or problem are you looking to solve with Let's Create?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for showing the ad. I really love that ad. What we found was IBM does not have a problem with brand recognition, right? Everyone knows IBM. Everyone probably can speak to some of the great inventions that we've had over the 100+ years we've been a company, like the magnetic card strip came from IBM. the barcode came from IBM, and more lately, like nanotechnology chips. So we've got like a really rich history. But what we found in research was people couldn't really put the finger on who we are and what we do now, right? And this was all about now. So that was what was behind the brand platform that we launched. We did a lot of brand identity work, and we found that what we felt we could really own, and really was IBM's identity, was that bringing together of business and science. We don't do it all, but we bring it together. And the business and science coming together, that's where new creators are living, right? So that ad you just saw, it really was meant to make people think about that wonderful, terrifying, and exciting experience of having a blank page to fill, right? And that's what we help people do. And that's really what IBM is. So that's what we feel like we have solved, or we're starting to solve. It's a very big ship with the new creators. And we can't show all of the ads today, but the next drill down layer in those ads goes into 5 focus areas for us, which are security, data and AI, AI operations, consulting, and hybrid cloud. So we actually get a lot more specific after that first ad, which is called the invitation.
Thank you, Sharon. I just wanted to come over to you, Sean. As we mentioned, that IBM is a complex global business, and I wondered how challenging it's been to create a brand positioning that makes the business proposition easily understood.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everyone knows IBM is by nature a pretty massive company, and along with that, with how long, it's 110, I think, year company. Along with that, there's a pretty extensive portfolio that goes with it, and I think the number one thing that we're trying to do here is really connect with our clients, and we've done that to Sharon's point by being able to align all those offerings around some of those focal points. I think the other big part is defining what a creator is. I think we're looking at a part right now. Everyone here on the planet is part of this huge technology surge, and I think we're at a pivot point now where what we can build, the art of the possible, isn't being limited anymore by technology. And I think what that winds up leaving is that idea of creativity. What is a creator? And up to this point, I think that's been kind of centralized around that idea of being artistic, when in reality now, for the survival of a business, we have a lot of these exec level technical roles that are now being forced to think creatively. And we're realizing that, being creative can actually be centered around technology and strategy. So I think it's making those connection points right now that's letting us really push where the brand is going.
Great, and I just wondered how difficult it was to get global buy-in to be unified in this messaging. Were there any challenges?
Definitely, and I think we're still kind of evolving what that relationship looks like. I think any company that has a presence in multiple geos has that issue, whether they're large or small. I think we're fortunate though, because number one, we have a fantastic brand team. They were very thoughtful and diligent about how they crafted this brand rollout. And with that, we had a lot of documentation around how we handle messaging, how do we handle imagery, how do we make sure that we're consistent in that. I think the second part of that comes in the role of actually being better partners in coordinating with our other leaders in geos. That basically goes around looking at what content, for instance, needs to be localized. It goes around looking at translation. I think translation right now is one of the major hurdles that we're looking at. Because while I'm saying, technology is really kind of pushing us along, machine learning translation, for instance, isn't quite there yet. So we've really kind of retooled how we're working with translation to make sure that, what we see in, for instance, the US is going to be very similar are equal to what we see in all of our other geos as well.
Great, thank you, Sean. Sharon, I was just interested to hear a bit of insight into the scale of the transformation project, because the message is so simple, so great, and it's so clear, but it must have taken a bit of a while to get there. So I just wondered, how long did this transformation take, and what kind of things did it involve?
Yeah, so thank you for saying it's simple. As you know, simple is harder than complex, right? So we had put a huge amount of work into this. We rolled this platform out across everything all at the same time. So it wasn't just advertising, it was design, like Sean's talked about, it was PR, it was internal comms, external comms, employee learning, recruitment, just events, everything you can think of. From start to finish of the actual brand platform, we did it in less than 3 months, and that includes Christmas and Thanksgiving. Yeah, I was prepping for this call. I thought, oh, I just looked that up. What was it, 6, 8 months? No, it felt like a lot longer, but it was less than 3 months. It was really stunning how fast we did it as a team, and particularly because we had just done a reorg within the company. But there was just so much energy and enthusiasm behind this platform that we just kind of got on with it. Even if we weren't entirely sure what each of our jobs were, we knew where we wanted to get to. So it was actually, it was a very enjoyable process, although extremely stressful.
Yeah, it sounds, I mean, 3 months is incredible. So many brand transformations take a year to 18 months. And I just wondered, were there any processes in place that allowed you to create that change and to create that transformation at speed?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm talking about the brand platform start. Yeah. There was identity work done before that was very rigorous. And we're not finished, right? I mean, it's just begun. So, you know, it's a very big ship to turn, IBM, and I don't expect this to change in the marketplace immediately. That's a good question, though. How did we do it? I think because I don't even really know. I think it's sort of a miracle. I don't know if Suzanne or Sean have a thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of it, to be honest, was some of the deadlines that were kind of set out for this launch. And we had several events and stuff that we wanted to be able to roll this out for. So I think, you know, that the idea of necessity is the mother of invention is kind of falls into play here. I think the other part too is, and I won't get too far into it, but when we think about this brand, you know, it's not you know, recreating IBM. This is an extension of what IBM is, and this is just that next evolution in how we actually express how our brand, how we want to be able to show our brand to the world. So to me, there were already wheels in motion. This is just a little bit more fine tuning and crafting of what that message is.
Yeah, and right, the wheels in motion, and it didn't come with. It came with a lot of planning. It was the biggest spinoff of IBM, where we spun off the Kyndryl company. And that required us to step back. And so all that research of when that was happening, it was thought through. What do we want to be known for? What's our why? So the background research, driven by data, driven by client interviews, really partnering with our clients. Our partners, rather, we're so reliant on the whole ecosystem and partners. So this was really built on all of that listening. Then to launch it, as Sharon said, fastest ever, because we held it close to the vest, and the timing of when we wanted to come out with it was important to kick off our year. Yeah.
And Suzanne, can you tell us a bit more about how it's being received both internally across the organisation, and do you have any feedback yet about how it's being received out there in the world?
Stellar. In every country, there's just this positive feeling, because it's really bringing together, right, a partnership. It's an invitation to join us and as a catalyst. So I think, I mean, we've heard really positive, whether you're in Japan, where it's translated, as Sean talked about, it's starting to really I saw this one Twitter, somebody said, I didn't know advertising mattered anymore. And then there was a Twitter note that said, my daughter's walking around singing Let's Create. So and it was not it was like IBM. I guess the ads do matter. singing the song. It was a recent Twitter post someone shared with me, which I thought,
I love that. That's a good sign.
Forget kids, right? We are a B2B company. We have not in positive extended reach.
And then Suzanne, we talked about how or you can see out there in the world that a significant percentage of transformations fail and organizations fail to change because they don't really consider the impact required of their people. And so I just wondered how IBM has brought its people on this journey.
Yeah, and I think we're conflating, like there's this major message that we had to go out with at the same time, which Sharon alluded to. We took some dramatic steps to position the company to become more nimble as we spun off a piece of the company, get in a position to drive one strategy. And the transformation was really, again, listen to employees. Our biggest challenge was we were internally competing. So dramatic steps was consolidating one marketing organization, resetting our sales strategy, resetting segmentation there. In my career, which has been a long time in IBM, 6 different careers here, different divisions, it's the biggest I've ever been through. But I think, it's all about culture, right? What is culture? At its core, it's about what we believe and we act. Everyone believed this was the right thing to do. Now it's about how do we act and execute on it. So it's been hard. I'm not going to make it like, oh, it's joyful. Oh, it's painful. Hard. It still is. It's still painful for the teams going through it. But what I see coming through, and that's where you have different experts on this phone, we're able to really apply our trade and expertise. And we're coming closer together now that we're doing that, stronger with our sales teams. We're coming together stronger as one company because we know collectively we have some of the best technology and expertise. But we were competing. So now, again, our transformation, it's just getting everyone to just keep saying, I believe, let's execute together. Still hard, but we see the progress. We see the light.
Suzanne, that's such a common problem, isn't it, in global, and perhaps at any organisation that working in silos and having that kind of separate sales and marketing and not working together. Have you already seen the impact of bringing people together on that journey, or is it still, as you say, a work in progress?
Well, I love that Jess joined because some of the impact has really been based on what our marketing technology stack has been able to do, is actually millions of patterns of, what we see on our clients' behavior. And that's all been in a vault that sounds like, I don't know what you do, marketing. And marketing's like, we don't know what you do, sales. Well, now we are to collectively showing sellers. And so that is what's causing us to come together as a team. Is this capability that Jess has been working on, giving us the ability to work as one unified team in support of the client.
Great. Well, that's a great introduction there, or to bring in Jess here. Hi, Jess. So we've been talking about the brand transformation and the people transformation. And so I would love to hear from you about the technology transformation. And I would just love to get some insights into how significant that technology transformation has been, what it's allowed IBM to do that it wasn't doing before.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did a pretty massive shift over the course of the last 2 years and did a huge investment in both the Adobe Marketing Cloud as well as Sales Cloud. And with that, it gave us an opportunity, I jokingly call it like we blew up the entire Jenga tower that was our stack instead of just swapping out a couple pieces. It gave us an opportunity to genuinely change our business process in a way that we've never been able to before, right? Every other time that we've done these transformations, we get maybe 2% better because we're constantly working at a point where we have all these individual platforms in place that are around our old process. And if we only change 1 or 2, we're not really revamping that from the ground up. And by doing this massive shift, it let us say, what should marketing look like? And what should the process be? And give us an opportunity to really revamp it from the ground up.
Great, Jess, I've heard it described as the biggest transformation in an IBM's history. Would you agree with that?
I would say yes. It is still ongoing. Anyone that's dealt with MarTech stacks knows it's an ongoing process that is constantly evolving. And my view of it is, with this first wave, we've set the foundation to then make greater improvements over time. Still happening in a massive way, but what we're really trying to get to is a point where we have a holistic view of our clients and then can engage with them across the enterprise in a consistent, repeatable way.
And you said there that you basically exploded your tech stack, which sounds brilliant, but also quite scary. What challenges have you come across along the way? Because obviously, maybe it's easier just to change, like you say, just swap one thing out. And obviously, this big change has allowed you to make big differences. But I just wondered how challenging that has been.
Oh, it's been very challenging. I won't kid. In our case, we decided to do all of the work at the same time and gave ourselves a very aggressive timeline of a year and a half to wrap up everything, to get all 5 platforms stood up, sunset 14 others, and define the process as part of that. Honestly, I was one of the ones that convinced them to do it all at the same time. Now that we've lived through it, I probably would have staggered some of it a little bit. The benefit of what we did is that it did force the conversations around the strategy and the process up front. That said, some of the components, like us swapping in Target, for example, could have been delayed maybe 6 months from a platform stand-up point, because until you get some of the foundational integrations done for things like the CMS and the DAM, there's no point in doing that personalization. So we had that up and ready and implemented, frankly, across both of our CMSs very early on because it was quicker to set up. But it did lead to some confusion around what content are we serving, because we haven't implemented some of the new models. So, learning over time. But I do think it was the right move from a process and strategy standpoint.
What I'm hearing from all of you is, first of all of the projects or transformations are hugely ambitious. And the other thing I love is that you're not saying it's an end process. It's not a project that's done. It's iterating all the time. And I just wondered what it's actually like to work in an organization that's just constantly evolving and changing, because that's not, you can't take that for granted. That doesn't happen in all organizations. Jess, I wondered what it's like for you.
It's alternately terrifying and exciting, I have to say. I won't speak for everyone else, so I'm curious on their thoughts on this. It definitely keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you constantly looking towards the end goal of what you're trying to achieve and evaluating your performance. I personally like evolving and like change, so it definitely keeps me from being bored. But I know some people find it very stressful. So I don't know if any of the rest of you have any points of comment on that.
Yeah, sure. Go on, Sean.
I definitely feel the same way. I actually really love it. I've been at IBM on and off for about 8 years now total. And I know with how big the company is, specifically around the design culture, that has always been evolution or progress in the work. So, much like the company, I feel like that particular discipline has been constantly changing and for the better. And we're finally starting to see what some of the net benefits of that are. IBM has Carbon, which is their open design system. And it is, out of any design system I work with, probably the most comprehensive. And all that work and evolution now is starting to pay dividends in the way that's allowing us to, when we change gears, when we need to adapt, when we draw up new campaigns, how that actually manifests itself in our experiences is a lot easier. I'm not saying it's paint by numbers necessarily, but the groundwork is already laid out because we have a fantastic design system that we're starting with.
Sharon, I just was really interested, first of all, to hear how you feel about working within this culture of continuous change, and then perhaps we could go on to hear a bit about what the future holds.
Yeah, sure. So I think we're all here because we like this stuff. We're in these roles because we like that, like without a net, blank sheet of paper kind of feeling. Like all my past roles have been like this. So I enjoy it. I'm newer to IBM, but I've been a long-time fan, and I really wanted to come and work at IBM. So what the future holds is more of this. So what you saw was what we call the first chapter. We have 2 other chapters of the brand platform. The second one is happening now, and it is more focused on our clients, as it should be. Because I think it's the best way to show, don't tell, of what we really, really do. And there's just some amazing stuff. And I think it's what we want to do is for people to actually understand all of the amazing work that actually happens between us and our clients. And I don't think it is often, people assume maybe it's someone else doing it, but it's actually us. And then we have a third chapter that gets deeper back into the platform around the new creators. And I can't say too much about that because it's coming, but I have to say that that's the one I'm most excited about. It's going to be some really gorgeous work. So I'm excited to see it. When we launched chapter 1, it was in 14 countries in 8 languages, 98 pages, simultaneously on the same day across all of the platforms, all the way into learning, as well as digital and design and advertising. And we just keep doing it like that. Having done that the first time, then I think everything we do is going to keep being spectacular. So we've set a high bar for ourselves. Unfortunately, it's hard to beat, but that's what we keep trying to do.
I think if you launch in that way, that's the only way to make an impact and make sure really that the global organization takes it on board, right?
Yeah, we had launch parties around the world. Actually, that was very cool. That was a nice ad.
So I suppose that sort of helped generate that excitement and just that understanding that that's something to celebrate.
Absolutely.
Suzanne, can I come over to you? You're a bit of an IBM lifer. I think you described you having 6 different careers at IBM, and I would just love to hear from you about I guess your journey and just thinking about that culture of innovation at IBM and how you've seen that across your career.
Yeah, the thing that keeps me, and as always you consider doing something else, is I've continually been in a role where I started as a systems engineer, moved to sales, did a job in channels, always in a place where it's like a startup. You're in this amazing expertise and skills in a company that's diverse, different points of view. But each of my roles that I've navigated towards have been a place where I get to start and build or reimagine a piece of the business that ultimately has an end goal for this greater mission, which is about world-changing progress, be the catalyst for our clients. So that's what's kept me. I don't think I've been at the same company, really, if you think about it. My dad was an IBMer. It was different then.
I love that it runs in the family like that it's been passed down through the generations. Have you seen, although I guess we can see that the transformation, innovation has sped up, are there any sort of particular values of the IBM brands that you think have been consistent throughout, or that you really, I guess, that are both internal and external facing?
Well, listen, the thing that, again, that just trust. It's a brand that you can continually rely on and trust, and we never stop innovating. I think it's like the company with the most patents, the most investment in research. So there's this notion of just can we can we keep reinventing? And I guess the foundation of this company that's here to just, based on good tech, we call it, right? That's fundamentally what's continued with every invention. It's like, are we looked upon as trusted? And Sharon mentioned at the beginning some of the inventions that are, they're behind the scenes. You don't see them. They're behind the scenes. They're making the banks work. With our recent announcement, our Z announcement yesterday, amazing. Nobody, that innovation that's really taking clients to improve banking right now with a foundation of what, I'm not going to worry about whether or not my data is going to be hacked, or because I know behind the scenes we have the technology that's making sure that keeping it secure.
Suzanne, can we just go into a bit more about that? So what are IBM doing, or what with the banks? How have they made that? What is the launch about? I haven't heard of it.
Our launch yesterday, which we had put it in the news, was about the next generation of our IBM Z platform. And that is, just in summary, you may not know it, but most of the world's biggest companies are basically running their whole hybrid cloud application against that, their whole business against it.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I find so interesting, is that it's really complicated stuff. It's really hard to articulate or give it a public face. That's why I guess I find Let's Create such a good message, because it could have been so easy to kind of bamboozle with the technology that you have, or use sort of really complex language, but you've just not gone down that route, and for good reason.
It's back to us. Yeah, being simple and clear, and knowing that the message is really reinforcing that it is in partnership. Let's create with the partners. Let's create with, as Sharon talked about, the data scientists, the people who are traditionally not seen as creators.
We're going to open for questions. So if anyone does have a question, then please post it in the Q&A chats, and I can ask our panelists. But I wanted to come to you, Sharon. We talk about this startup mentality within IBM, but you still, it still is a big ship to turn. And I just wonder, I suppose that's two different sides, right? You've got the startup mentality, but it's just such a big scale. And I just wondered how that works, because we traditionally see innovation in those kind of startups, and especially in this digital age. And we see brands going from nothing to worth billions within a year. And I just wonder how hard it is to get that innovation within IBM.
Yeah, so it is and it isn't, right? So it's interesting that there's a whole research part of IBM, and I recommend to people to go to the research pages on IBM.com, because it's fun, right? There's a lot of stuff on quantum and so the innovation is happening in this company all the time. It's our job in marketing to be able to talk to that without getting really bogged down. And I would say the thing that we get bogged down in the most is there's such breadth to IBM. And that's our challenge, because our competitors tend to be more point solutions. And it's much easier for them to talk about themselves, right? Because they just do the one thing and they can talk about that. If we try to talk about everything that IBM is, your eyes are going to glaze over, because there's just so much there. And that's why coming up with a platform like Let's Create is so important, because it puts a nice pointy end on something that we can talk about that makes sense to people, but also is representative of all of the work that we're doing. I think that the cultural stuff that Suzanne talked to is what helps you have that startup culture. And I know everyone says that, right? Because that's what you really want to get to, is to be innovating really, really quickly without any friction. And I think a lot of what we did in the reorganization helped us to do that. But yes, it is hard, and you have to want to work that way, and you have to not be daunted by the hurdles. right? You just have to know that they're going to come and push through them.
Sean, I was really interested to hear a bit more about your everyday role over at IBM, what you do and what you contribute.
Yeah, so I mean, right now the biggest initiative, and that ties into a lot of this brand work that we're doing, is migrating platforms right now. So yeah, I get to work with Jess quite a bit, and right now we're moving over to the Adobe Experience Manager platform. So it's a pretty huge hurdle, because I think when we think about content management systems in general, you think of one piece, maybe it's connected to DAM. What we're doing though is unifying everything in one cohesive ecosystem. So that's like, how do we handle like testing? How do we do personalized content? How are we handling our image library videos? How are we making sure that, when we're talking about being able to have those consistent experiences across different geos, how are we regulating copy, things like that? These are all pieces that we're starting to tie together. And really this brand rollout is kind of the catalyst for how we're going to infuse that into the next generation of our pages. So I kind of work as a liaison between the brand team and the digital marketing team, as far as working with the creative and template design and how we actually build our pages, put those together, and testing. There's also a huge effort right now to basically retool and overhaul our information architecture, as well as the UX of how we're building our pages. And right now we're kind of hitting that on three major points. Number one is search. Second is navigation, and then in-page linking logic. And that's like Sharon was saying, when we're talking about a company that's 650, 700 products total, that's a massive undertaking to actually pin that all down and kind of figure out how do we make these overall experiences better and help our clients find what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a challenge across so many organizations. And if you don't have that central place, that platform, then brand consistency and brand message is never going to happen, is it?
Exactly. Well, and I think, IBM, it's not necessarily unique, but, IBM also, there's a ton of acquisitions that they wind up doing every year. So, it's not just, keeping our brand healthy and strong. It's also how do we integrate other brands or reinvent what that brand looks like, or how does it play nicely with the work that we're doing. So that's always a constant struggle as well, and considerations that we have to work on.
How do you stop, I guess, parts of the business going rogue and kind of using their own things?
well, so
transformation.
I think like AEM is going to be a big part of that, right? So I think setting up templates and some of the built-in tools that are in the platform are going to help create guardrails for that. I think the second part kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, and that's the fact that I do think IBM has a very strong brand, but it's also well crafted. So there are a lot of like guidelines and directions about how we actually create experiences. The other thing is that we're really selective about who our partners are creatively. So outside of IBM, any of the agencies that we work with go through a pretty stringent process to get vetted as official IBM vendors. So I think all that tied together tries to, keeps the wheels on, so to speak. And I do feel though that is also a work in progress that we've seen a lot of evolution in over just the last 5 or 6 years. There was a time where IBM's identity, while we had a strong brand message, visually it may not have been represented because we had a lot of partner agencies that kind of had free will to kind of do what they will with it. But the brand team has gotten very tight on that over the last couple of years, and we're starting to see those results now.
Suzanne.
Also add on to what Sean was saying is, as part of this transformation, we very much focused on centralizing some of the governance around this. So we got ourselves into trouble in some of the old systems by giving everyone and their brother access to do whatever. And with this, we very much said, let's identify the group of people that are trained the right way to use the platforms. And then they are the only ones that are able to do some of that work. So it kind of forms a natural gating function as well, so that we can make sure that everything's reviewed the right way and in compliance with the overall brand and the messaging that we want to send out.
Yeah, Suzanne, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, since my topic of keep talking about the people, but right, if you're any organization out there, and you mentioned it, right, every organization struggling, you can either have your marketing team where you've got a very small Scrum team that runs everything against a product, which is what we were doing. We had stood up 40 different marketing organizations, and we each had little squads of all the expertise, the digital, the strategy, the design, UX, against the product. We've consolidated. So you fundamentally can't do that now. We centralized everything, which pros and cons of that. That's what we're working through on this transformation, which is why I said it's the biggest. We've never committed to do that before. And so I think we're working through it right now. It's like making sure that we ensure that each product team has what they need, or the ones we prioritize, but also that we hopefully don't look like we had in the past, which we potentially were out there marketing with. You weren't sure what was the IBM look and feel. Now, wherever you are in whatever country, that one is making sure we're aligned on the message, the look, and yes, nuanced by country. It needs to be for sure, but.
Do you think it still allows for creativity within, so those individual product and marketing teams?
I mean, just the amount of expertise that's come out of marketing and the function that's probably on its own career path gone through so many changes. I think it allows for a lot more creativity. Create content creators together in an expertise, whether they're coming up with the idea for systems or IBM consulting business, or it doesn't matter. They're feeding off each other, like, oh, that would work better this way. So I actually think it has a positive effect towards creativity.
Do you agree, Sharon?
Yeah, I would agree for digital, because in that atomized structure we had before, you could have maybe one digital strategist on their own in a large team, and they felt kind of a little at sea. And it's a lot harder to influence when you're just one person. But now that we've brought the whole digital discipline together, we actually have real ownership of IBM.com. It's the marketing part, right? It's not just marketing, and it allows us to look at it really boldly. There's no questions off the table. There's no possibilities off the table. And because we're a united team, we have, organic all the way through to brand, like every aspect of digital we're all in the same team. And it's fantastic because we get to talk about these big problems, these big questions, and we have the mandate to just go and do it. There's no one stopping us. There's no, there are far fewer agendas there used to be. I mean, we touched on it earlier. We have very clear focus on 5 focus areas for marketing in the business, and we structure everything around that. And that just takes a lot of the churn work off the table, right? There is a business focus, not a business unit focus, not I'm an influential executive focus. It's really clear what we're trying to do.
It also adds to, Sharon, do you agree? I mean, we're a culture of experimentation. And so we can build many, many more experiments and improve things 1%, 2% by looking at some of these projects across all product lines holistically.
That's right. We've stopped asking for permission. We used to ask for permission a lot, and then we get bogged down in that. We as a team, as cross-discipline teams, we know what we're doing. So we just do it. It happens a lot faster now.
Jess, I wanted to come back to you, and we've talked about sort of brand consistency, and I just wondered, as part of the technology transformation, if we could talk a bit about data and what consistency the technology transformation has brought to data within the organisation.
Well, I will say a lot of the transformation has helped us kind of assess where some of the gaps were, specifically around data. A lot of our systems, when I first joined the company about 3 years ago, were very disconnected. And so it made it challenging for us to get a unified view, A, and then B, actually do some of the reporting to figure out whether something was working or not. So with this entire transformation, like we've connected things in a level that they just were not before. So like to Suzanne's point, as we're doing these experiments, we can now say, was this working? And tell very quickly and pivot and change that test and evolve it. And just see, like, is this particular piece of content working against this audience at this point in the funnel? And then start recommending to marketers, okay, this thing worked last week, but now we have a new piece that's actually performing better, swap it out. So there's a lot of capabilities there that we're just starting to really leverage. I know I'm very excited by this because it's not only are we evolving how we're dealing with our clients, but we're also able to kind of fine tune this in a way and see the performance in a way that we've never been able to do it before.
I mean, I think that's amazing. Many brands that I speak to, many marketers, they're sort of bamboozled by the data. They don't even know what data points to look at, let alone then analyze what is most effective. So it must be sort of life-changing for those on the ground doing the job every day to be able to have that data-driven approach.
And we as a company have been very focused on being data-driven in our marketing for a long time. So that approach is not new.
Yeah.
I think what is new is the transparency about what's really going on and making it a little bit easier for marketers to perform well by getting access to some of this data and having it recommended to them up front. It saves them a lot of time, a lot of energy. And frankly, it's getting us to a point where we can actually start to build and automate a bunch of this stuff without requiring human intervention, right? As Sean had mentioned earlier, like we're really looking at trying to make it so that no one's having to manually go in and for each page build out, this is a list of case studies that are appropriate to align with this product. It's just automatically done and automatically updated with new content. It's really life-changing. It lets the marketers focus more on the strategy and the journey that the client should be having and less on the day-to-day management of just keeping the lights on.
Suzanne, we spoke earlier about that people transformation and getting sort of marketing and sales to be more aligned. Having this more cohesive or very cohesive data strategy must really help with that, because they can really see the results, in real time.
Well, yeah, a lot against the same client, same customer master record, which is a first for us. If you were looking at the client from two different lenses, but we weren't sharing the data, it continuously caused tension. Now it seems so simple. Why wouldn't we have one CMS? I mean, it's one customer master rec, right? System. We've arrived. I mean, it's a testament, right? It's the tools. It's Adobe. It's Salesforce connected. It's our IBM consulting team that has thought through how to reimagine a business process. This all started with rethinking of the processes before we even took a take at, what technology, but and frankly, the whole IBM consulting division, which has a whole customer experience practice, they've been doing this with clients. This is we are now one of our biggest own clients, where our consulting team is helping us, and we'll be able to share some of what we've learned, as Jess talked about, in our future consulting applications as we bring this to other clients. So yeah, ultimately, that's the goal. Sales and marketing together. It's nirvana.
And so it sounds like that data piece is key in that.
The data of looking at the client together.
Yeah.
We can still get better. I think there's still opportunity to get even more insights about that client. that we know are sitting in the seller's notebook. We need the sellers to start to trust that as we act on this data, we're showing 7 times increase in pipeline and sales leads, right? But we need to continue to really just work together, make it easy to access, and make that input and output of the data simpler to collect.
So what I find really interesting when you're talking about transformation is it's not a one-time project. It's as we talked about, it's kind of ongoing. It's maybe even a transformation makes it sound like it's well, you'll change something and then you're done, but actually it's this continually modernizing your business. And I just wondered if there are any sort of key takeaways or learnings from what you've been working on in the last sort of year and a half that you can share with our listeners in terms of how to transform and modernize your business successfully.
I'll hop in here. So I would say one of the major keys is do not be afraid to get it wrong, right? The only way that you can evolve is to acknowledge when something isn't working. And to do that, you have to be honest. And we have a huge cultural thing that we've been discussing internally about radical candor, right? You need to have that. And you're not going to necessarily get it right the first time, especially if you're making a major shift. So just listen to that feedback and be willing to pivot if needed. I will also say, for my part, I'm a huge proponent of good change management. That means communication, making sure that as things are changing, you're communicating clearly and making sure people understand not only what's changing, but how their engagement with different things should be changing and their attitude, like how they work. It's not just go into this platform, click this button and do X, Y, and Z. It's a different way of thinking, and supporting the team and understanding what that means and how they need to change their viewpoint.
I have
Go
one.
ahead, Jen.
The biggest, I've worked on a lot of transformation projects, and the most counterintuitive thing I've learned, and probably the most useful thing I've learned, is to welcome bad news. To your point, Jess, is to actually really look for it. Because what happens is your teams, they want to please you, particularly if you're working with an agency, and particularly if we had a great team that was so excited to work on this, but I had to dig for bad news. But if you do, you won't be sorry, because you're going to find it out sooner or later, and sooner is better. So it's really a cultural thing that you have to change. People don't expect you to want to hear, and honestly, I don't, God knows, right? But I do. Right, I just have to push through that counterintuitive moment, and then that really helps a lot.
That's really at the heart of improving, and if you only ever hear good news, then really you don't get to the heart of the problem, right? Sean, have you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think the other part is kind of embracing the idea of things don't have to be perfect. We definitely work in a very agile process, and I think there's a lot of rewards for that. I think a mistake that happens too often is people want to get something out on the glass and they have this expectation that it's perfect. Well, even if it was perfect, it's perfect from their vantage point. And like everyone was saying, we work off the data, and a lot of the times you'll put a lot of effort into something that you think is perfect, only to find out that statistically it doesn't work well. Whereas if you put those efforts into getting something out there fast and letting the people kind of decide and choose if something's good or not, you are able to pivot and then move and be able to get back on the right track for that. So I think that that's something that our team has been really good at, is embracing that idea of iteration and testing.
Is that true across the whole organization, Sean? Does the whole of IBM embrace agile and iterative working?
Yes, I think so. I think that's always encouraged. All of it, I think, goes back to the core culture of innovation. That it's part of the DNA of IBM. So it makes sense that that kind of flows through the whole company.
And Suzanne, do you have anything to add on your sort of top tips or learnings from the transformation that you've been involved in?
I mean, it's the common theme of all. It's agile at its core, but agile not just for the rituals of agile as a culture. I mean, there's 4 areas of the values. Are we open, respect, trust, and be courageous? And then you can add the 5th, empathetic. And those are the values of agile, which enable us to say that's gonna, people sort of throw it around like, I'm doing agile, I'm sprinting. No, it's a fundamental way to live those values. And if we really think of it that way, we can only succeed.
Yeah, I really love all of those points. I think it takes a really brave organization and a brave culture, though, to embrace failure, to look deep for those mistakes and what's going wrong. And I really love that idea, Jess, of radical candor. But you really have to have a certain culture and a certain type of people within your organization to be able to have those honest conversations, right? I'm just going to see if there's any questions. We've just got really, we're at the wrapping up stage now. Is there anything else to add in terms of the future? I feel like we've got a glimpse of the future, but if there's anything else that you can share at this stage, then I would love to hear anything else that we can expect from the IBM brand. Sharon?
Well, like I said, we've got 2 more chapters. So we're in chapter 2 right now, and chapter 3 is coming up soon. Keep watching our website. So I could go to ibm.com, let's-create. You can see our gorgeous pages. And more will be coming through there soon.
Okay, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops and following the IBM brand story. I really want to thank you, Sharon, Sean, Suzanne, and Jess. I'm so glad you could join us today to really, not just hear the top level of the the brand transformation, the technology transformation, and people transformation, but to get all of your honest answers and experiences on the journeys that you've been in at IBM. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for having us.
Thanks.
Thanks for letting us.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. I feel like I need to go create something tonight. I don't know what it's going to be, but I've got the bug now. So thank you for that. It's been wonderful having you on, and thank you so much for joining us today. And then we're going to switch over to our next panel of speakers. They're all from OkCupid today. So please help me welcome Jane Reynolds, the Director of Product Marketing, Sonia Oblati, the Senior Director of Global Marketing, Devin Colerian, the Senior Brand Marketing Manager, and also our moderator for the day, Corey Rokel, the Vice President of Digital and Programmatic Sales from Trusted Media Brands, Inc. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you all. We'll let Corey hop on, and I will see you all in a little bit.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I missed the memo about the background. My apologies.
Looks like you have a nice background though, so it looks good. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for letting me host this panel. My name is Corey Rokel. I'm with Trusted Media Brands, which owns such well-known properties, print and digital, as Reader's Digest, Taste of Home, Family Handyman, and for our newest assets and brands like Fail Army, Pet Collective, and Poke My Heart. And today I have the pleasure of hosting a panel with 3 lovely ladies from OkCupid. So I'm excited to introduce. I know we just got introduced a little bit, but I'll let Jane, Sonia, and Devin introduce themselves and their roles a little bit. But I did want to say I'm super excited about hosting this panel for one big reason is early on in my career in the early 2000s, I did work for another online dating company called Match.com. I was doing events with them for a few years, running the East Coast. And since then, I'm sure a lot has evolved in the dating space. And I know we're here to talk about OkCupid's one of the recent campaigns, which has definitely, evolved and been a big evolution from my time at Match and some of the marketing they did. So I'm excited to, start asking some questions and get down deep of the evolution and some of the recent success. Jane, do you want to start off and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to kick us off. I'm Jane Reynolds. I'm Director of Product Marketing at OkCupid. So I have been at OkCupid for 5.5 years now. I love it. I joke that we're not curing cancer, but after that, helping people find love is pretty up there. So it's a great business to be in. And while I sit on the marketing team, I work really closely with the product team to make sure the amazing work that Devin and Sonia do, bringing people in the door, is reflected in our product experience.
Jade, I'm going to have to agree with you. I feel like you guys are actually doing good in this world where I'm slinging some ads and selling some newsletters. You guys are actually doing good.
Well, we need you too, Corey.
I like to think that, but I think love is more important. I think you guys are bringing people together, which is wonderful. So thank you for that. Sonia, do you want to go?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia. I am Senior Director of Global Marketing. I joined OkCupid almost 3 years ago. Can't believe it. And, I've been having a really fun time here. So essentially, I joined the company to help expand OkCupid into international markets where we saw, great organic traction. So I get the pleasure of taking our Match on What Matters brand positioning and launching all over the world. So far we are in Israel, Turkey, Germany. We were in India and a few Southeast Asia countries with more to come.
Wow. And we're going to go a little bit further later in the differentiation in some of the markets, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. And Devin, last but not least, please introduce yourself.
Yep, I'm Devin Colerian. I'm the Senior Brand Marketing Manager for OkCupid. I've been here for 4.5 years. And really, I'm responsible for all things brand marketing for the US. Unlike Sonia, I have one country I need to focus on, which is nice. But yeah, ever since I got here, honestly, my job has just been like, let's just make OkCupid cool again. So we'll dive more into that later. Yeah.
That's great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So first question is going to be for Devin, and it's regards to your most recent successful campaign. So what was the reaction to every single person?
So I'd like to go into like how it came about, and then you can sort of understand maybe the reaction behind it. But the Every Single Person campaign is really OkCupid's, standing up for like our product truth, and that is matching on what matters, and that everyone is welcome here. OkCupid has always been an inclusive dating app. We like to say we're exclusively inclusive. We have 22 gender options, 20 sexual orientations. We were the first dating app to have pronouns introduced to profiles. So we really are truly for everyone. Every Single Person came about kind of coming out of the pandemic 2021. At the time it was, do we go with a campaign that was, going to talk about what it's like to date again post pandemic, right? Is kissing back again? Is everything back again? And, OkCupid is scrappy and we like to stretch our marketing dollars. So we wanted a campaign that would kind of say something more. It would not be just so focused on the pandemic moment. It would have a longer lifetime. And so, we really said, let's, do something that stands for what we stand for, which is inclusivity. So we had, basically 20 different provocative images. We worked with the same artists that we worked with on our DTF campaign, which is Maurizio Catalan, who's an amazing Italian artist. He does very bold, provocative looking stuff, very colorful. This campaign was mainly out of home, so it needed to catch eyeballs. So we had things like every single non-monogamist, every single non-binary, every single pansexual. The insights behind that were that people came out of the pandemic. We saw upticks on OkCupid of bisexual. We saw upticks of non-binary. We saw upticks of non-monogamy. You spent so much time in quarantine, you really understood who you were, what you were looking for. So that's a trend that I think other people have seen outside of OkCupid. But so that's the creative that really shaped it. The reaction was amazing. We were very humbled to hear from so many people from those communities to say, I feel so seen. It ran on the New York City subway and people felt very seen to, be like, wow, you put pansexual just right up there on the subway. Like, how cool is that? I've never seen that before. But we also always spark controversy.
Yeah.
Not everyone loved that. We honestly don't care. And we're definitely here to like piss certain people off, because no matter what, everyone deserves love. And that's what we'll always stand up for. So it's been very successful. We ran it again in January. We doubled down on our investment for this campaign. So yeah, it's been great.
Devin, that's actually, you kind of jumped to one of my follow-up questions in terms of controversy. So was it controversy or controversial from more of like an overall general population perspective, or more from some, current subscribers or members?
Not really members. Honestly, one of the biggest controversies we saw with the campaign was there was this video that went viral. It had like 2 million views, I think, across Twitter and Instagram, of a woman ripping down our ads. She was so angry. She ripped down our ads off the subway, filmed the whole thing, and was saying how we were promoting, gay relationships, LGBTQ relationships, and that it was propaganda. And we were kind of like, yep, that's exactly what we were doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. So we're really, again, we're not shy in that department to stand up for people who are underrepresented. Everyone does deserve love at the end of the day. And that's what the tagline is that it's for every single person. So we're very proud of that.
That's some free media right there, especially with those views right there. So that's getting the name out there, and whether people like it or not. So sometimes there's no such thing as bad PR, right? That's people knowing who you are. Thank you for that. All the
time. Yep.
I'm a believer in it. So Sonia, I'm going to redirect the question to you. So how do you adapt to brand campaign messaging in each market, considering you're covering international? I think you're remote somewhere right now, right?
I'm actually in Ghana right now.
Okay. So
we haven't started marketing in Ghana yet. But yeah, so, when you think of a global brand, you always think, what is our DNA? What is our positioning? What is our core? And at our core, it's matching on what matters. But with OkCupid, there's also that twist of irreverence, a little bit of controversy, a little bit of breaking the rules. So when we launched in India, we launched with a campaign called Find My Kind, which Jane actually was a big part of that. India was before my time, but India really set the stage of how we would launch internationally, because in India, you look at their cultures and, it's usually typically through family hooking you up, and online dating might not be seen as the go-to. So people don't feel like they have the freedom or that option to find someone of their own. So they wanted to, the campaign was Find My Kind. And it was very controversial, in the OkCupid way. When we launched in Turkey, similar to Find Your Kind, it was Someone Like You, so because Turkey has a little bit more conservative nature. So breaking all of the rules, using a dating app to find someone like you, and using our questions, because OkCupid, we pride ourselves on having thousands and thousands of questions that allow you to really match on what matters. And the algorithm just magically puts your percent score together and you can match on what matters. And then Southeast Asia, when we launched in Indonesia, it was For Someone Like You, but it was still breaking the rules and breaking that traditional norm of being match made. Now, when we launched in Germany, we launched in Berlin last fall. Berlin, we see it as more progressive city, a city that's more open, a city that can take more risks. So what we did was we took the US Amazing for Every Single Person campaign and adapted it slightly. So we took the creatives, but we changed the brand messaging. So instead of being for every single person, we decided we wanted to promote the relationship app. We wanted to promote that you will find a relationship. And the reason why we didn't just say for every single person is because two things. Single does not translate in German as a double entendre like it does in the US. So you always have to keep these things in mind when it comes to language and translation and culture and how people meet and all of the different ways that people date globally. And then secondly, OkCupid, we're in the very infancy of brand marketing in Germany. So what we did was, we wanted to really introduce the brand as a dating app. In the USPs, we focused on relationship. So the positioning was better matches for all, date someone who is as passionate as you, date someone who's as spontaneous as you, and using the creatives from the US team from their for every single person campaign and modifying it. We had great success. We actually just launched into Munich and Hamburg and Berlin, again, another hit this week. So that's really how we look at international. But then, this is probably a great segue for Jane, but our questions that we incorporate in the product must be culturally relevant. So we wouldn't ask a question about the Super Bowl in Israel or in Turkey, even though they might know what it is. It wouldn't be something that would be of interest for them. So we work really closely with the markets and with Jane and her team on the product side to be able to launch questions that are locally relevant for the people in those countries.
There's actually a chat question that I'll ask Sonia to follow up. So had you operationalized the localization to each country, and who made that decision?
Oh, well, for us, it's not the hardest decision because we look at organic traction and we see where are users using us with no marketing? And then where do we have the best product fit? And then also you look at other economic factors such as who has, the infrastructure for Wi-Fi, who are people who are in the bigger city areas, what's the culture there? Is it very open? And, we take those into consideration. But what I love about OkCupid that we do that some of my other companies when I was in global marketing didn't do as well is that we do a lot of testing and learning. So we don't just go full throttle in the market, especially with limited brand budgets. We take our time. We test, we do our research, and then when we see it as a success, we'll start investing more. So it takes a little bit longer, but we would rather, kind of tread lightly versus putting all our eggs in one basket. So that's in summary how we determine international markets. Yeah.
Another question, it could be for anyone or Sonia, like in terms of OkCupid overall, is there a certain demographic that you guys look out to go promote? Is it younger? Is it millennials? Are there, people, Gen Z? What's the breakdown? And is each market different? Or some markets, is it just like, I'm 45, right? If I was to, and when I was doing research before, just so I did give my wife a heads up, I said, if you see an app on my phone, just so you know, it's for research purposes, right? But, is it some markets, is it heavier, like 40 plus, like maybe like people second time around? Are there any like kind of targets that you guys look at to differentiate per market or per country?
I'll start for the US. So
okay, go ahead.
Sonia, for the US, really, it's that like 18 to 34 bucket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's who's, which is a huge age gap because you've got people entering the dating scene who potentially have not heard of OkCupid before, right? They don't have that history. The brand's been around since 2007, but they might not know us. But then that 25 to 34 range is kind of another bucket of like, you've been on the dating scene a while, you've probably have a couple dating apps on your phone. We're one in the mix there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're also more, OkCupid takes a little bit of time to sign up, right? You have to answer 15 questions. You have to fill out your profile. It's a little bit more of a sign up process than some other apps. So you have a higher intent user. You have someone who's really, if they're going to take the time to fill out a profile, they're pretty serious about dating. However, I will say again, for everyone, whether you're looking for someone for Saturday night or someone for the rest of your life, we kind of feel, that it's a big range. But that's US focus for sure. But yeah, we have single parents in their 50s for sure. In terms of who we're marketing to, it's the younger city-based data. So New York, LA, Chicago, those are big markets for us.
Okay, that makes sense. And then Sonia, so from more of an international perspective, does it really vary based on what Devin was just saying?
So yeah, it does vary. So the strategy as far as targeting in Germany is the same as the US. Mm-hmm. When you look at Israel, because after high school, they go to the military for a year. Then after that, they'll travel, then they'll go to university. So that by the time they're really at that age to date, that's when they, usually about 25, 26, right? So they see OkCupid as a serious dating app for looking for relationships. So it's a higher intent, like Devin was saying. So we typically, that's our sweet spot. It's like 27. But what we're doing now, and it's a test strategy, is to see how can we bring the younger consumer on the journey with us? Because we've seen, with what we pride ourselves in, activism, being there, like climate change and Black Lives Matter. We know that's for the younger at heart, those who are willing to go out and protest. So we're playing around with trying to attract a younger consumer right now in our new ad campaign, which launches at the end of this month, and I can't wait for everyone to see it. But that too, so it's the nuances that we look at by market, based on your dating culture of that country.
Understood.
Yeah, I would even add to that too, because obviously we can't be everything to everyone, right? That you can't do that. But so instead, it's almost more, while we do kind of target this certain age group to a degree, we're more so going after intentional daters. So, if you are, as Devin mentioned, willing to answer these 15 questions and fill out this profile, it's at least showing that you're someone who wants to do more than just like put up a picture. And so that's kind of the people we're looking after. And, our overarching, brand message and narrative is match on what matters. So just like Sonia was saying, we're getting those people who are matching on issues. We saw a major increase of that during the pandemic. And so the people that are downloading OkCupid and going through that process are the ones who really are looking to connect with someone. Again, could that be a casual connection? Yes, but the idea is at least that you have relatively shared values before, we always like, it's better to know before you go on the date. You don't want that like red flag to show up or that deal breaker to show up when you're on the date. Everyone's been there and it's not fun. So that's ultimately what we're trying to avoid.
I know even when I was working for Match back in the day, we always encouraged everyone to put pictures up, right? And I know that's initially you see someone's visual, and you guys go much deeper than that. And that's where the algorithm comes in and all the questions. But even when I went on like the other day, it said we know you should have a photo, right? So at least that's like our first glimpse. How important, you guys are more than just like than looks, right? Because then that's where the algorithm really comes in to make sure that when you answer these questions, you can really fine tune the match. And it seems like it's really an important process. To Devin, to your point earlier, like you might be one of many apps that are on there. Do you find, on someone's phone, do you find people, loyal to OkCupid, right? Because it's a different type of dating experience, correct?
Yeah. And we have a very loyal fan base also, because we also have people who have maybe been on the app for years, right?
Yeah.
Because they might be poly, they might be in a non-monogamous relationship. And so we are their app. And really, if you want to know, if you're a straight single girl and you want to know whether your date voted for Trump, whether they think climate change is real, whether they support reproductive rights, and you want to know that before the date, we have tons of girls who are like, someone who voted for Trump, right? Like that was a thing. We're the only app you can do that on. And so I think we have a very loyal fan base for that reason. It's we really give people, and someone put in the chat, a friend wanted me to say thank you for the detailed profile form. They're now married. I actually read their profile. 45 of the 50 questions matched.
Beautiful.
I love that. Yeah, our profile is set up to have you take that second look, right? We have profile badges. So right now, we actually just yesterday, we launched our climate change advocate badge. So this will be my plug. Download OkCupid, get your climate change advocate badge, email jane@okcupid.com. We'll set you up with premium. We actually have a little team competition going of who can get more people to join with premium. So I'm like, Jane at OkCupid. But yeah, so the profile is set up to really have these badges where it's like, yes, you can see their photo, but then you also can see the values that are important to them. And then also the match percentage. That's another reason, because when you see, once it's 90% or above, we change the color of that to pink, from blue to pink. So it really kind of signals and pops to you that this is a real match. And you are matching on these questions that we've also done a ton of research on to see this is super important in your market. This is something that's timely, and you're able to, it's called the match score drill down, but we have this kind of tray that pops up that you can click and see the questions that you agree on, the questions that you disagree on. We also, like, our algorithm is, state of the art kind of stuff. I mean, you also rank the importance of every question to you too. So if you and I both mark something as very important, or, some of our questions we say that they're either conversation starters or deal breakers. So conversation starter might be like, one of them is cilantro. Am I not going to go on a date with you if you say that you don't like cilantro and I do? Probably I'm still willing to go on a date with you, but it's just something that kind of helps make that initial connection.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. One question, I think, just a question, someone just said, like, gave feedback on a friend that got married. I know that's a beautiful thing about what you guys do, right? Is when you make those connections. Do you also are able to get feedback on, like, what kind of first dates work best, right? And help guide your audience on, like, all right, you know what, like, especially as we get the pandemic, people are more comfortable doing coffee outside, or, or dinners are still, people are hesitant, especially that first time around, not knowing other people's kind of, background and how active they are out there and stuff like that. What do you guys get feedback from your audiences as well through that too? Not just like marriage, which is beautiful, and kids down the line, but other things as well too that they're doing.
We have questions in the product about that. So it does help people, I wouldn't say that there's one, this is like the perfect first date. I would have done it by now, but but I do think that, we have these questions in the product that are, especially with pandemic, different varying levels of comfort degree, right? So we had those questions in the product, and you can see if you agree or disagree on them, which also just kind of takes away the awkward conversation. We help you kind of skip that, because it's when you're first meeting someone new, it's butterflies and it's awkward and you don't know what's the right thing to ask or not. And so it kind of takes the guessing game out of that. So you could find people who also want to go on a walk or grab coffee or get drinks or whatever it may be. And another thing that we launched in the space too, which we actually did in collaboration with the White House, was a vaccinated badge. So, right when the vaccine came out, we worked with the White House on it because it was an effort to get more people vaccinated. And we gave everyone a free boost. It just gets your profile shown to more people. So we gave everyone who, opted in, said they were vaccinated, a free boost to get them shown to more people. But that was another way of just like, okay, this is making me feel more comfortable about dating again because this person is vaccinated, et cetera. So
that's great. That's great. Really getting involved there. Sonia, I'm gonna follow back up with you with a question. What's important to the brand to keep consistent across each market, which, as you got into it, I know it could be difficult, right? Because based on different like language barriers and cultural differences, what is most important to keep consistent? Is it the fun atmosphere and people being honest with themselves and who they are looking to, participate with or get involved with?
Yeah, I think what we were saying before about matching on what matters is what we want to keep consistent. And however you translate that in your market is, culturally is up to you. But we really want to make sure that you understand that we have all these questions that can really help you identify. Like Jane was saying, like, you don't have to worry about going on a date and meeting someone who you would never talk to and have just such dramatic differences. So as long as we're able to translate that globally, so the match on what matters messaging, the fact that you're able to date somebody with substance and somebody who you would basically, you feel like you would know before or ahead of time, but also I think, one thing that we're trying to incorporate is just the diversity of our product and the diversity of our users where we can. So for our launch in Israel, we are looking at, a few trends. We had a transgender model, we had gays, we had Ethiopians, different races, different backgrounds, because not only can you match what matters, but we also want to know that it's for everybody. So like that, and we all we have, internally, we always try to speak the same language, like we're exclusively inclusive. And then that alone will just show you that we want you to see that for yourself. So we don't necessarily have to say like, hey, Black people are on here, but we want to show and demonstrate that it's open for everybody. And that's something that we need to ensure that we do globally.
Got it. Open for everybody. Love it. Love it. Jane, I'm gonna go back to you now. So how do you incorporate the brand marketing into the product?
So There are a lot of different ways that we do that. One cool thing is actually, as Devin touched upon too, a lot of that we see from the product is reflected and it kind of drives our brand campaign. So, when we do see that more users are non-binary now, et cetera. But we do a lot of work in the app store. So with everything that Sonia's doing, going into other markets, we make sure that we optimize our app store presence to fit the marketing in that country. So, you see OkCupid on a billboard, you see the campaign, it's different in each market. You come to the app store and it makes sense to you. You're like, okay, yes, I'm in the right place. That's what I saw on my commute. This looks the same. I'm going to download. And also really, our questions are such a main part of the product and how we incorporate everything that's in our brand campaigns as well. So, if it's the for every tree hugger, because we saw, this increase in interest in advocating against climate change, et cetera. And we have those questions in the product to make sure that we are really connecting people. We say you can connect on this in the ad. Well, you really can when you come in to OkCupid. And, we talk about our questions all the time because it gives us such interesting data. And it also, but, I will say, one thing that I really pride us on is having all these questions. It's not easy, right? It's a heavy lift as we're translating into Turkish, into German, into French. Other apps, like when they don't barely even have to translate, right? Because they translate, sure, the instructions for downloading your profile, but then almost all of the rest of the content is user generated. But that's not the case for OkCupid. We have thousands of questions. And we also want to make sure that these questions are relevant to your market and are also reflecting moments in time. So, as Sonia said too, we're not going to ask you about the Super Bowl if you're not in the US. And we also customize our questions by gentation as well. So we have specific questions that are just for gay men, bi women, gay women, and, asking questions that will be relevant to you and your match that might not be elsewhere.
Got it. So you talk about the questions a lot, right? It's a little more in depth. Is that and basically being open for everybody, right? Is that how you mostly differentiate your product from the other dating apps and dating websites out there?
The questions and that driving at match percentage, I would say, is certainly one of our key factors. There are lots of points that I will say that we really pride ourselves on and our differentiators as well. So, touched upon our badges, but we are the only app that lets you filter on those things. So you can filter specifically for people who are vaccinated. You can filter specifically for people who are pro-choice. You can't do that elsewhere. And that's really something that's amazing to do. We were also the first dating app that's not LGBTQ specific to release pronouns for people's profiles. So we're constantly iterating the product and trying to, have something, why OkCupid? Because to also in Devin's point, people are on multiple dating apps. And so it's very likely that you will see some of the same people, but our point is kind of, we package you better on OkCupid and we show who you really are on OkCupid. So you actually might be getting a lot more likes from intentional daters on OkCupid than you might be on another dating app, because we're really showing who you are and letting you shine through versus being, one in many sea of photos.
Got it. Okay, that's great. So, okay, that answers my question there. And just to open up to the audience, to the participants, if anyone has any questions, please put in the chat and I'll be able to read that. So I guess, one thing I'll ask as well too is, I guess, well, you guys seem to love what you guys do, and where do you see, OkCupid in 5 years from now? Devin, I see you nodding your head thinking about it. Do you want to take that, or you want to pass it off?
Jane looks like she's got an answer already.
I'm ready. Well, I was going to say, I certainly see us in more markets, right? Sonia's doing an amazing job getting us all over the globe. And, Sonia was just in Israel. And I really do think that we're just going to continue to expand into more markets and be able to continue to customize, and also more languages as well. And yeah, and then just continue to, I would just say, make the best dating app out there. So continuing to iterate and really draw in, more people and be able to sustain a larger user base, as we do see that it's not necessarily anymore the dating world of yesterday of you meet someone, you get married. It's possible you'll get back into the pool if you get divorced, but you don't know, like the plan is kind of like marry and done. It's not like that anymore. People are dating, have longer dating careers.
Good for your business though. I hate to say, it might be good for the divorce, might be good for your business though, right? Repeat offender, which could be good for you, right?
Well, we don't wish it, right? Because
of course.
Our hope is that you do, if you are looking for a monogamous long-term marriage, our hope is that it works out for you. And what we want you to do in that case is just tell all of your friends, right? And have them come when they get divorced. But yeah, that would be my answer to that. I don't know if anyone wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah, I think from like the brand marketing perspective is that, and I think we're already doing this, but what I hope is 5 years from now, we're doing this maybe even on a bigger scale, is just continuing to be a brand that is culturally relevant, that when there are moments, that happen, continue to happen, like when Black Lives Matter happened, when Trump got elected, whenever those are things that daters are talking about, that
Sure.
OkCupid is at the forefront of that conversation in a bigger way. And, again, I think we're already doing this, but if I look back at where we were 4 years ago to where we are today, we are now being asked like, oh, OkCupid is, really taking a stand on reproductive rights. Like, you're one of the only companies who is. I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud to work for a company that is. So I hope 5 years from now we're doing that, but maybe just on an even bigger scale. So we're small, but we're mighty.
I could tell. That's great. Sonia, from like an international perspective, where do you want to expand upon?
Well, to Jane's point, we can spread love all around the world. I'm down for it. I'm here for it, but love to do that. And for me, 5 years down the road, I think we're just going to continue to iterate on our algorithm and our matching. So who knows, maybe you'll be able to go onto the app, and all of a sudden you're going to see everybody who likes ketchup on their fries. I'm making all of this up, but fine-tuning our algorithm so that we make it even more easier for you to match. And like CEO says, we'll have seats at the same table. So you can have conversations with people who might love the same football team as you, and just give people more of accessibility to have these conversation starters through the product. And this will be global. And to Jane's point, I give our product team, a lot of credit for the translation process, because it's not easy. Because translation not only is it's a direct translation, but it also, there's some slangs that are involved. There's more than just the grammar. There's a lot more involved with translating and being a global app. But that's what I would like to see in the next 5 years.
Got it. Thank you. So I had another question that kind of popped up, but Jane, if there's any visuals you want to show to the participants, anything, I know we've gone into a lot and kind of covered a lot too, but if you want to show anything, feel free. And then I'll let you, get some time, but I wanted to ask, with, talking about the pandemic early on too, when did you guys find that people started feeling comfortable kind of getting back there in real life? I mean, I remember early on in the pandemic, I was listening to podcasts and people were doing like the virtual coffee dates, right? Which must've been different. As a salesperson myself, like virtual selling, there's been tons of books out there now, 6 months, a year later, there was about best ways to, conduct, webinars or sales meetings. And it's different, right? Like the rapport, just kind of the feedback you get from somebody, you can't see what their hands are doing, how engaged they are they on their phone, what kind of feedback do you get from people when they were more comfortable going back out there? And like you said, like the badges, maybe that helped, right? Like people like, okay, I'm vaxxed, right? Or I'm boosted. Like I feel more comfortable with this person because they showed that badge on their profile.
Yeah, it definitely drove. Sorry, go ahead, Devin.
Oh, I was going to say, I really don't think there was ever a moment where dating apps in general, OkCupid specifically, were really not needed from the beginning of the pandemic. And I will like never forget our first like company all hands, Shar, who's, you know, CEO of Match. We had a call and, you know, I think it was like March, maybe April. And what we had learned was, you know, dating apps and OkCupid just serve a hierarchical need that you need love and connection no matter what, whether that is virtual or in person, because people never stopped talking, right? People never stopped connecting on the app. You needed it more than ever. So yes, it changed what in-person dating looked like. And we're definitely expecting this summer to be kind of like the summer of love. You know, everyone is fully vaccinated. Everyone is back. Everyone is feeling much more comfortable. So we're expecting a very big surge this summer. So that's really exciting. But I would say throughout the pandemic, I think we consistently saw that people still needed connection. It just looked different, you know, whether you were talking on the phone, FaceTime, virtual dates, whatnot. But, you know, it's kind of a core part of of who we are as human beings, which is really cool.
Yeah. And the IRL piece, I will say that we did see an uptick with people after the vaccine badge and after the vaccine was just available in general, seeing people having interest in, you know, meeting in person again. And it's been cyclical, right? You know, then we had Omicron and people also went back to wanting to do virtual. But, you know, at this moment in time, also as offices are reopening and people are boosted as well, we're seeing that, you know, that in real life connection increase too. So yeah, it's just been, we'll continue to ride the wave, but people are seeming to definitely be wanting to meet in person again.
That's great. That's great. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add? You know, we do have more time left. I want to open up to the participants as well, but anything else you guys want to add or share that maybe wasn't covered in some of the questions I had directed at you guys?
No, just start. Typical push. We want to bring all of you interesting people who love marketing into OkCupid in the dating space if you are out there. So definitely download OkCupid, and we love chatting about it. So
we'll take all questions, including how to improve my dating app profile, yes. Marketing questions.
Yes.
We talk about in real life and Devin mentioned, which I love, the summer of love. I feel like it's the 60s again, right? It's like, what about like OkCupid events down the line? Is that something that, you know, you guys put together like big events or festivals of love, or however you guys might want to label it? Is that something that the company looks at or has looked at those activations?
We're looking at it, and we're definitely looking at some for Pride specifically. Nothing is really set in stone. I think, you know, we're kind of still just keeping an eye on, you know, people's comfortability there, but it does seem like events are going to be back. Festivals are certainly back. So, you know, we're kind of a small team. Events are a big lift. Sure. But yeah, we're definitely not against them.
You guys did say you're a lean team, so.
Yeah.
But in Turkey, we are having, we actually are sponsoring a music festival this summer in Turkey and Istanbul in June, I believe. So as I mentioned, every market is a little different, but yeah. We'll be doing that in Turkey in the summer.
Good luck with that. Sounds exciting. That does sound exciting. Well, I don't know if there's, you know, nothing else you guys want to add. Jane, were there any slides that you wanted to share as we have some time left, or?
I don't know.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
I kind of just spoke to it.
Okay, yeah. Good. Okay, yeah. Good. Carrie, how do we proceed from here if there's no more questions from the audience?
If there's no more questions, we might end up wrapping early, but I can't imagine with you there wouldn't be questions. I know between the three of you today and Melissa, who spoke with us down in Austin, I will never not attend a speaking event with OkCupid because you guys are phenomenal.
Thank you. This was so fun. Thank you guys for organizing.
All trying to channel our inner Melissa because she definitely can rally up the crowd.
There was definitely some hooping and hollering in the audience in Austin when she was on stage.
Sorry, I missed that. I got asked like the week before, and I was like, I need more than a week to go to South by Southwest. Give me some time.
We'll send you over the link.
Please do. Please do. Well, I want to thank you guys. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure chatting with you and talking to you and learning more about the business and the evolution for me of online dating, because I've been on the scene for a little while. But this is great. I wish you guys obviously the best of luck.
Thank you, Corey. Thanks
Much
for the
for having us.
questions.
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
Thanks so
Follow
much, everyone.
OkCupid on Instagram.
All of the market.
Hit us up on
messages.
LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. And that's actually going to wrap up our day. Just want to thank everyone for joining us and tuning in. And a big, big shout out to all our speakers, our sponsors, and of course, you, our audience. Be sure to, of course, follow everybody on LinkedIn that we just saw speak. And of course, check out our Brand Innovators website to learn about more of our upcoming events. And have a great day, everyone.